I'm Elisa Mortensen, and this is Undo Redo. Let's take a look at all the things that happen in life that we would like to undo and have a chance to redo. Hello, everyone. When I named this first podcast, Brutally Honest and Gloves Off, I had current location in mind, and I'm going to run you through the whole thing. And this is the first basics of 4 basics that I would like to teach to you before we just go along and have guests and have the whole podcast show. So, number 1, admit it. Current location. So let's expose our shame, let's expose our blame, possible resentment, and let's shed any light on our situation we have that's going on inside of us. Because this grants us access to be as curious as possible. So if we're curious about where we're at, then we can be open without feeling threatened and without beating ourselves up over it. And the reason that we want to do this is because we ask our question like, why? Why am I at where I'm at? So think back, you're a young person and you pictured life. And as life happens, you don't realize how far off from what you pictured being as a person and who you were to who you are right now. And you don't realize how much that has changed. So as you're looking back, be really honest with yourself. It's more effective than pretending, I promise. Pretending allows it to continue and grow large. It can double and triple in size until it gets your attention. So let's not pretend. Let's just be honest with ourselves. This is where we're brutally honest. Now, you had a plan and this wasn't it. And for the most part, this isn't it. So this is where we're not beating ourselves up for it. We're just being very honest with where we're at. It didn't look like this. It didn't look like this was as taxing as it is. And we notice ourselves complaining a lot more than we did before in our younger self. And we have a lot less control in our life over things, maybe a lot less control in our emotions or our eating, or maybe we're staying up at night and that doesn't allow us to get sleep, but that's when we have a minute. So we're chronically tired and we're just doing too much. So the whole point of being really honest with yourself right now and taking the gloves off and letting yourself be called out, again, it's not to beat yourself up with it. It's just to take into account where you are at this moment. Because maps, when you search it, it will need where you're at. So if you think about it, when you map any map, you say, "Hey, take me to or map me to blank," and you want to go to a destination 500 miles from here. You can't get there unless Maps knows where you're at right now. So the importance of this is just, I can't even begin to tell you how important it is to know where you're at right now with everything. And what you start to notice. Now, all of it's okay. It's okay that you're complaining more. It's okay that you're tired. It's okay that you don't want to show up. It's okay that you're not in line with everything that you'd like to do and accomplish in your life. And I really want you to know that from the bottom of my heart. Compassion is the vehicle to get anywhere in life, and it is okay with where you're at. So we start as a young person with this thought in mind of where we're going to go and where we're going to be, and we think about it from that mindset of where we were. And then things change and life sets in, and maybe we get a little complacent or we get a little lazy and we start to procrastinate, and all of that's okay. This sets in a routine and it just rinse and repeats because that's what our mind loves to do. So this repeating pattern becomes a default program. So now we have default programming because we've done it for so long, like we've been complainers for a while, or we've eaten this way that doesn't honor our bodies for a while now, or not got the sleep and not fought for our sleep enough, and we're chronically tired. So this is just set in place as default programming just because of the repetition. We've done it long enough that is now our go-to thing. And there's nothing wrong with that. Again, don't beat yourself up over any of this because the endless lists of things to do, the decisions that we make that go along with those things, we have to make sure that it all gets done. And then we tell ourselves, well, if I don't do it, nobody else will. So that tends to tighten and constrict and pressurize us. So if we're making decisions on behalf of us and on behalf of others, and it needs to happen, in order to be more efficient and effective in this way, you can take a deep breath at the time that you feel tight or overwhelmed or stress coming on. Just take a deep breath because you are right now where you need to be. You were meant for this. And you can say, okay, Elisa, how do you know I was meant for this right now? Well, because that is what's happening to you in your life. And you can't argue with what is. So you can take another deep breath at this moment and agree to trust yourself because your beliefs, your abilities, your experiences, everything that you are, what you have come through to this point in life, sitting right now where you are listening to this podcast with a past behind you and a future ahead of you is where you are meant to be. So you have a choice here, and here's where some decisions come in. If you know where you're at and you kind of have an idea, you can choose a direction. So which direction do you choose? You have a past behind you, you have a future ahead of you. Which way are you facing? And so you sit with this and you sit with maybe not feeling good enough. Maybe you're sitting with not being effective enough, not using your time well, and just not managing yourself or the people that you're in charge of. Maybe you're just sitting with maybe you're not enough. And that's okay. Just sit with not being enough and observe it. Because accessing change comes through the mind, loosening its grip on your default pattern. So if your mind is amazing, so if you ask it to find what is working for you right now and what it isn't, and then you just go about your daily life, your mind will remind you, hey, this is working. And then when you feel a different thing, you'll be like, wow, this is not working. And your mind is like a heat seeking missile. It will find that answer. So you can sit back and you can go about your life without having to change or should change anything because you just get to be curious about yourself. You get to observe yourself day to day, in and out, in all the normal routine, rinse and repeat default programming you have. And taking a deep breath when you notice yourself tightening in order to just back up and get curious. If you are the observer of yourself, that is how you access change. So you allow your emotions, both good and bad, and you take it all in as just information. So instead of reacting to what's happening around you, you're just like, oh, and you just take it in as information. And this information starts to answer your questions. What is working for me? What is working in this situation? What isn't working in this situation? And this practice creates space between you and what is happening around you. It zooms out on your life and it's realizing now that there's both positive and negative emotions, and it's all necessary for communicating with you. It's necessary for directing you toward your true self. So whatever it is that brought you to this podcast, whatever it is that has you listening and looking for answers outside of yourself, as long as you're not pretending and you have compassion and curiosity for yourself, you can access your own answers. You don't need anybody to tell you what to do. This is not a podcast where I tell you what you should be doing in your life because I don't know. You know. You know what you should be doing. You know your kids best. You know the people you care for if you're a caregiver or your spouse. Um the trauma behind life and who has what going on for them. You are the expert in all of your family relationships, not me. So don't pretend, don't beat yourself up with all the shortcomings that you see in this next little while as you observe yourself. Okay. And definitely don't quit. Okay. Because, you can complain instead of finding solutions. But if you're the observer and you're gathering information and you're using it for making your decisions, then you can make decisions that you trust yourself with. You know you'll do what benefits you most and those around you when it's time to decide. You can just sit back and go, I got this because I do know these people and I am their person. And how do I know? How does Elisa Mortensen know that you are the person for them? Because you are their person. You are their caregiver, you are their mom, you are their dad, you are their guardian, you are their foster parent. You are the person in charge of yourself and these other humans. And you've made it work. Look at how much you've learned. Look how trial and error. Look how many things you've done. So you can practice this skill of observing yourself whenever you feel wound up or tight. Take a deep breath again, because we are the creators of our safety and we have our power of choice. When we decide to undo our default patterns, that we have been running just on autopilot in the background, the rinse and repeat, all these tendencies that we have that just aren't working for us anymore. It just so happens that when we get access to it with curiosity and that we use it as information instead of a reason to react to it, you notice that these things happened without you choosing it. They just kind of started to happen with you not even noticing, but now that you notice, once you realize you're there, you saw that and you can't unsee that. So you can start to undo those patterns. Now we honor ourselves when we do this first step, this first basic step, because it aligns us with our truer selves and the direction that we are meant to go and the life that we planned on having, because there's intention there. And it's not complicated, it's not impossible, it's just more gentle, observant, and compassionate than you believed it would be. We haven't been able to loosen our grip or access it because we didn't know it looked like that. So now you know it looks like that. So if we're brutally honest with ourselves and the gloves are coming off, we have to know our current location in order to map where we're going. All right, now you know. You can take this with you and you can ponder on this. You can observe yourself, get curious with yourself for a week, 3 weeks, 2 months, however long until your answers come. Take 100% accountability with where you're at right now and allow your human experience to just happen. Allow things around you, allow the people around you, allow all the circumstances around you to just go without reacting to it. Just be curious about it. How does it work for you instead of working against you? What are you learning that can be most useful? And what matters most to you now that you've seen what you've seen and that you know what you know? What's the next step? Stay tuned for the next podcast. It will be basics number 2.